Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the All Portable Discussion Zone, a biweekly podcast focused on amateur radio portable ops, QRP, homebrewing, and everything in between. My name is Charlie. Call sign is November Juliet 7 Victor, and I'm your host. And with me this evening are my Operators Roundtable co-hosts, Dan KC7MSU and Brian W7JET.
Hello.
If you enjoy the show, you can find us on all major podcast platforms, as well as YouTube and Discord, and we'd love to hear from you over there. You'd also find a bunch of links for those platforms and any items mentioned in today's podcast in the show notes below. This is another Operators Roundtable episode where we expand the conversation beyond portable ops and dive into a wider range of ham radio topics. And we have a good topic today that we want to talk about, which is operating contesting and the do's and don'ts, or the basically the best operating practices for various ways in which you'd operate. We'll dive into that in just a minute, but let's go ahead and get around the group here and see what everybody's been up to since last month. And I'll go ahead and go first this time. And excuse me if I clear my throat more than I usually do. I'm just getting over a cold, and that's kind of what I've been up to. One of the things is I was a little bedridden last week and had a little cold, and that was after coming back from a really nice trip to Mesquite, Nevada, and St. George, Utah, where we went up and visited some of our kids, our grandkids, who were in soccer tournaments up there. So we spent 3 or 4 days up there, drove up there, and then came back, and then I got sick. So anyway, also earlier last month, Brad, KA9JDE, who we had as my guest on one of these interviews just recently on the podcast, and Herb, N7HG from the Navajo Nation. The three of us, activated a couple of 8-point summits on the Navajo Reservation, which was really fun. It was actually quite pleasant up there. We didn't run into any problems with the weather at all. We did get a little grumpy lady that came and said that it was her land and we should get off of it. But we know that the Navajo Nation is open land, and so she didn't have a leg to stand on. But we didn't want to be bad stewards of the soda community, so we just complied and went our way. Also, I think maybe Dan will mention it, but Dan and I did Lone Mountain soda activation later on, and that activation I mostly focused on 2 meter single sideband and got one maybe or two contacts that way, but it was a pretty thin as far as the 2 meter sideband. It's been a challenge for me so far as we've been moving forward in getting a lot of those contacts, but hopefully things will change. Lastly, I just wanted to mention, before I go over and turn the time over to Brian, I wanted to mention a former guest of our show, Jim KF7E, he's not doing too well. He's has Parkinson's and is in a wheelchair, and his wife is trying to get over cancer, and he has some issues with some feed line stuff. So as a good hopefully ham radio community person, I'm going to try to see if we can figure out a way to help him out. I think you know him too, don't you, Brian?
Yes, I do. I know.
Yeah.
I definitely know Jim.
Yeah, so he's got some issues, and I don't know if I can reach out to the club or to somebody. We got to figure out how to get him some help. Has some people that are a little concerned about him getting him, because pretty much the only way he enjoys, has his only enjoyment really is getting on and working some CW. So, all right. Well, with that, let's move on over to Brian and see what you've been up to, Brian.
So let's see. A little bit of contesting, a little bit of antenna work. I erected a K9AY receiving loop for the low bands, and that seems to be working pretty well. It's got 4 directions on it. It's a good device. Jason DX working the KP5. DeSacio Island, got them on 10 through 80. They still haven't popped up on 160 or 60 long enough for me to work them. Got them on CW digital and phone, so that's been fun. For those that are not familiar, that is a DX operation that is completely unmanned. So they set up a fully remote station in a hut on DeSacio Island, and everything is being run by operators off the island, elsewhere, all over the world. Um,
I was looking at some pictures of where they were offloading onto the island and stuff. That was pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So that's what's going on that's what's going on right now. And then of course we got Bouvet coming up for the other for the big DX, and that's a little behind schedule, but it sounds like it's coming together. I have um, a couple of friends in high places, so I get some information. And there's information I have that I can't share, but it's going in the right direction. Um, and yeah, it's just been kind of doing that sort of thing, gearing up for DX, getting ready for a trip to Curacao um, for uh, to operate some off PJ2T. What else has been going on? Um, just that's really been it. Just doing DX stuff. I haven't been out doing soda too much lately. My left knee has been giving me a little bit of trouble, so I've been reluctant to do anything with any kind of um, off trail or rugged stuff because if it goes out, it could be a problem. So I've
Yeah,
been reluctant to do that right now.
that makes
Uh,
sense.
so I need to get a drive up in and at least get that done. What else? What else? Flying's been good, contesting,
Doing the
contesting,
pilot
always
thing.
contesting, always doing, oh, well, always doing CW. I've gotten, I've really begun to really enjoy and look forward to doing high speed CW. And a good rate for me, so that I start to get annoyed with myself now if I'm doing less than 120 an hour. And I know that's like, oh, 120 an hour. Look, listen to him. That's, whatever.
No,
But
that's good.
for me, it's become a benchmark. I started out at 50, and it's gotten up to that point now. And lately, I've been doing pretty good. The band's open. You're on a good station, on a good, have a good station with you could hear things. That really helps out a lot. Being able to run at a good speed and cranking them out there and getting to post them on 3830 and watching some of the other guys that have been doing it for a really long time that do SO2R and being able to compare my score to theirs and see that I'm holding my own doing a single radio. It's a good shot in the arm. Makes all the hard work from the days of um, what's did he question many, which you probably should know what I'm
Cody
talking
Morris.
about. That yeah, from the Cody Morris days up to 36 words a minute is it's an accomplishment. I enjoy it, and it didn't it didn't happen overnight. This is like probably almost 14 years worth of doing CW now to get to this stage and being able to be on contest teams and stuff. So it's been fun.
Yeah, it's interesting you were mentioning that because I think it was just less than a week ago I was thinking about how you often send at 40 words a minute when I'm on a summit.
Yeah,
You'll send 40 words a minute, and it actually breaks the pile up every time. I know exactly who you are, but
yeah.
I was thinking, what am I going to do with my? I wanted to do some sort of a macro, and I'm thinking, how can I do a macro that responds just to Brian, and how if I turn it up to 40, 40 words per minute, if I just send it, and that can throw him off because you're usually the one throwing me off.
I think I'll have to go faster than 40 now because I'm at that point with the CW ops guys where I'm getting blasted at that speed and doing okay. Every now and
Okay.
then you repeat on things. There's stuff that I'm like, was that a 9 or an 8? Well, let me guess. Or let me look at the super check partial. The super check partial tells me that my brain is wrong, and that's what it actually is. So let me try that
Well,
one. Oh,
this
I didn't get a
radio I
repeat. They're good.
this radio I use the FT this radio I use the FTP CFT1. I think it only maxes at 50, so I'll have to just turn it all the way to max for you.
Yep. Go all the way to max. See, challenge me. I
Yeah.
when I started getting higher on the speeds, who is it? VE3 JCW. I think it was his call. His call. I don't know how active he is right now because I haven't done stuff in a while. But he's one of the guys out of Canada, and I started running faster, and then I think, probably was watching one of the shows or maybe heard through the grapevine. So all of a sudden, he would start blasting me at high speed, and I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That's cool. All right, Dan, what have you been up to?
Well, surprisingly, I've actually been up to a couple things. As you mentioned, we went up to Lone Mountain to do a soda recently, and that was a lot of fun. Um, like you indicated, 2 meter single sideband took a little bit to get rolling on, but it worked out pretty good. Uh, uh, 40 meters was a little quiet, so but It was a nice day. It was a good hike, so I really enjoyed that. As a matter of fact, I'll be out on Saturday on Humboldt Mountain, which is a drive up there, um, to take and try that again because I'm wanting to try out the single sideband. What else? Finally got signed up for Ozark Con, so they opened up registration, and I got signed up in there finally. So that I'm looking forward to that coming up. It'll be nice to meet a few more people that I've had contacts with in the soda world and stuff. So that'll be a lot of fun. Also in April, I've been working with the group of guys from the Superstition Amateur Radio Club. We're working with Arizona State Preparatory Academy. We're getting ready to do a International Space Station contact towards the end of April. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. We've had some dress rehearsals. We're live streaming to YouTube and everything. And I thought that, the radio equipment was complicated enough, but I tell you, the audio, video cable, mic cables, and everything else for the AV team is far worse than than it is for the
Wow.
stations itself. So that's been an interesting learning experience. So as we get closer to that, I'll kind of let everybody know when that's gonna hopefully take place.
Oh,
I think that's about it for right now.
okay. Well, that's a fair amount. Cool. Just a little housekeeping thing. We will be this episode will be released the Sunday after your Saturday activation. So if people hear that you're going out on Saturday, it's already happened
Yep,
because.
it's already happened.
And then Brian, I wanted to mention to you mentioned to me that you wanted to talk about or just briefly mention or something an EMS friend that you mentioned in an email or yeah. Can
Oh
you?
yeah, Mike Stitley. I have to, Mike, forgive me for a second because I can't remember your call sign. Um, he's a
Well,
so Mike's a fairly new ham. He's a guy I worked with back in the EMS days. Oh, geez, at this point, when I was in my when 20 was an age, not how long it took me to get out of bed in the morning. Um, he and I worked together there, and I found out that he is a ham, and he does POTA. And I actually made a contact with him the other day. I threw him into my ham alert, and I was able to work him. And give me 2 seconds to find his call sign again. I got to look at
yeah,
my
no problem.
telephone here on my ham alerts. Actually, I don't even have to do that. Let me go over here and see if I can crash the internet and go into ham alert on the computer. So let me look up.
While he's doing that, Dan, we need to get together and do our another sort of between the two of us. I know that you're going out on Saturday. I was telling Dan, I'm actually Saturday is Valentine's Day, and so I'm actually going to be busy all day doing Valentine's things. Sandy and I are going to go do a hike in the morning, and then we're near Canyon Lake outside of Mesa area, kind of in foothills of the Superstitions, and then we're going to hit the Dolly Steamboat tour, which you guys just have to look it up. It's a 2 hour tour. Sounds like Gilligan's Island, maybe, but anyway. And then we're gonna go to dinner. So we got a Valentine's Day all planned out. It would be a lot of fun. So
All
anyway,
right,
got it.
I got Mike's call. Kilo Echo 2 Charlie India Echo.
Okay, good. Well, congratulations to him, and that's cool. Did you know that you were who it was when you worked him, and then would you look it
Yeah,
up
so
afterwards?
we had already connected before, and he gave me his call. We were chatting about because he had apparently, through seeing stuff on social media and YouTube and different places where we all three of us pop up because we're fairly public in ham radio. Like I tell you, I'm a D-list ham radio celebrity thanks to you.
Well,
Um,
I was going to bring up you have president listed as your name there, so you're
oh,
the A-lister.
yeah, I didn't. I gotta fix that. That's still set up from the
To
another
what?
group
President's
there.
the top of the line.
Well, let me change here. Edit, rename the
It cracked me up because I thought you put that in there as a joke.
No, no.
It's Ham Club meeting week, that's for sure.
Anyway, I interrupted you,
There.
Brian.
All right, fixed.
D-list
There you
ham,
go.
D-list ham radio celeb. Okay, that's all right. There you go.
Okay. So, yeah. So through that, my random appearances in the ham radio social media universe here, he put two and two together, did some math, and figured out that I was that guy
Yeah,
that he worked with way back when, and that's where we him and I worked in Newark together, and we saw some and did some pretty wild things, and when I say wild, like stuff that normal human beings should never have to see or experience. Um, and we worked together. He's a good dude. So he's up
yeah,
in New York State now, and he's doing POTA up there. And if you work him, tell him say hello. Say I
that's
heard
cool.
about him on the All Portable Discussion Zone
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
Red
There
Summit
you go.
RF channel
yeah.
with the world famous Charlie NJ7V A-list ham radio celebrity.
Okay, so they're very funny. That's actually though speaks well a lot to the ham radio community and how there's always connections that can be made. It seems like that, it seems like I'm always running into people. I'm like, you're a ham, so that's pretty cool. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the topic of the day. My first year that I attended uh, Dayton Hamvention, that was with Brian also, right?
Yes, it
And that
was.
was in 2022. And I attended Contest University. And for those, I'm sure everybody knows about it, but it's basically Tim Duffy, K3LR from DX Engineering, the guy in charge of DX Engineering, is also the guy in charge of Contest U and puts on a great educational forum. And uh, there were two presentations at that particular Dayton Hamfest in 2022. One was by Doug Grant, K1DG, called Contesting 101 Operating. And the other one was by Pat Barkley, N9RV, and it was called Operating Mechanics, the X Factor in Contesting Success. And I have kind of looked at both of those and kind of compiled a list of things that I gathered from that are important in operating techniques. And so I today would like to go around and just kind of discuss some important operating techniques that we all think are important, talk about those, and then maybe do some comparing and contrasting with how a contest would work compared to field day, which is I in my mind is a quasi
It's a
contest.
contest.
It's a contest, but it's less serious one, and then also soda, and so soda and POTA and all the other portable op stuff. So
Yeah.
let me just start it off and start by saying that one thing you need to know is to know your role on the frequency. Are you running or are you searching and pouncing? And you cannot continually swap back and forth between the two, and both of them uh, take some skill in doing properly. And I know that we've observed some people in certain at certain times who have, for example, been a search and pouncer and have dialed in on a frequency and then have, called CQ and didn't get anybody and then got frustrated. And so it's just like it's confusing to me to watch them do a combination of two different things, and so you really need to decide: are you going to search and pounce, or are you going to call CQ? And so, if you're running calling CQ, you kind of own, it's in quotes, own the frequency. You're on that frequency. You're holding, maybe is a better word, holding that frequency as long as you can actively use it. And you keep your another thing important when you're running is you keep your CQ short and consistent, and we can talk a little bit more about that. And then you have to control your pile up. Don't let chaos ensue when you're running. Whereas if you're searching and pouncing, you're listening a lot, and you make sure you
Mhm.
understand the exchange, and then you call once and maybe twice, and don't do endless calling and jumping over people. And so and make sure that you have a rhythm. You know what the rhythm is of the person. So I've hit a lot of things there, but what do you guys think about what I've said? What do you want to add or contribute to that?
Well, I was going to say about the searching and pouncing and the running. A lot of that is also dependent upon the contest you're doing, and there are certain rules about how long how many times you can switch bands. Frequencies are different, but bands, how if you can switch from running. There's usually not a big limitation on going from running to searching and pouncing for a contest, but there is uh, limitations on band swaps. So sometimes you're allowed a maximum of 5 per hour, and once you switch, you have to stay on that band for 10 minutes before you can go somewhere else.
Mhm.
So a lot of it depends upon the contest and the contest you're operating in, with regards to that. You obviously don't want to move in and crowd somebody out. You don't want to. The bands are tight, so depending upon the contest, you're going to be very, very close to other people operating, and there's delivered QRM and there's just accepted QRM, and sometimes you kind of have to accept the QRM, and you also have to accept the fact that if a large big time contest station or a large big time DX contest station decides that the frequency that they're on is the frequency they're going to be on, and they don't hear you, you are not going to push them off. You should just move. It's a losing battle.
Yeah.
They're not going to hear you,
Yep.
and because they're going to be getting bombarded with a bazillion other calls. They might be using a directional antenna. So if it's somebody on the East Coast, they're probably pointed northeast toward Europe. If you're in Arizona, like we are, they're not going to hear you. Especially if you're running 100 watts in a wire, they're just not going to hear you. So if they start transmitting on top of you, don't take it personally. It just sort of happens.
Yeah.
It's the difference between being the big gun and being the small gun. Um, Little pistol, I guess, is the term that's used.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
But it's but searching and pouncing, especially if you're running, like running, um most people, depending on the station you have and what you're doing, you have a timer in your head, and if it's quiet for too long over a certain period of time, you'll do what's called run the band. So you'll look at the band map and you'll hit all the multipliers. And as you're hitting the multipliers that you see on the band map, you'll also hit the non-multipliers on the way that you can grab quick and keep moving on to get your rate back up. And then once you're done, you go back to the CQ frequency that hopefully is still open, and then go back to running again for a little while and see if you can pick up a few more contacts. In the beginning of the contest, running is usually really effective, but there's a catch 22 to that, because if you run a lot and you miss all of the multipliers that are on early, that could really affect your score in the end. So sometimes in the beginning, it's a trade-off. Do you want to run for a little bit and then go grab as many mults as you can? Or do you just want to do all mults and then worry about running later? Because sometimes the mults will disappear. And then, come in the afternoon, or, the other side of it is the fresh meat um, aspect of it. So if you haven't operated for most of the contest and you get on Sunday, you're a new call sign. You're going to be very attractive because people haven't worked you yet. So you're going to get a lot of
Mhm.
calls on Sunday because the contest is almost over and nobody's worked you. And your call sign is a unique call sign, and that counts for points. And each contest has different rules for how many times you can work somebody. Sometimes it's once only, sometimes it's once per band. And it all depends upon the contest rules.
And Dan, what do you think about search and pounce, and any advice about which one to use, or what are your thoughts?
If you're a new ham, search and pounce is kind of nice, because you're kind of in control of when you're deciding to get into the game. One thing about search and pounce though is listen for a while, right? So listen to other people make contact with that particular person that you're planning on calling, and get their cadence, make sure you understand the information you need to provide and what they're going to provide back to you. I've seen it happen quite a few times where somebody just kind of barges in, here's somebody, they get on the air instantly, they don't listen for what's really going on, and then they're not prepared to give the information that the other operator will need.
Yeah,
um,
in fact, that's kind of a, excuse me, that's the second point I was going to bring up if nobody did. So bravo. It's listening more than you transmit. I
mhm.
think this is probably the most important habit to have, um, in my opinion, but everybody has their own. Um, And so let's talk a little bit about listening and what you did. You mentioned a few things about listening, but what are some other things about listening? So one is I would mention, in addition to what you said, is that uh, as a runner, you need to confirm that the frequency is in use. So you have to put your listening skills in there. And then also, if you haven't looked up the exchange, which you should have, you need to learn the exchange format by listening and don't just jump in and give your call and then expect. I mean, what would happen? I don't know, Brian. You're a contester more than I am. If you just jump in and give your call, what's going to happen with the with with the runner?
Well, I mean, let's do a drill. Seek your contest, W7JET.
Yeah, NJ7V.
NJ7V, 5.9 kilowatt.
5'9".
I need your power. I need your power.
I'll have to look that up. Give me a minute.
I got to read the manual. Where's that
NJ7
button?
NJ7V, I need your power.
Uh, I don't know, maybe
Seek your
five.
seek your, seek your contest, W7JET contest.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
Depending upon the operator, more patient operators are going to go, "Hey, are you new to contesting?" And you're going to say yes, and they're going to say, "Okay, the exchange for this is your signal report and your station power. How much power are you putting out?" And you would say, "I have a," you might not know if you're new, and you might say, "It's I have an ICOM 7300." Okay, you're running an amplifier? No. Okay, so you're putting out 100 watts. So the exchange would be 59100. Okay, and that's it. And that's so depending upon the operator and what kind of time they have and everything else. But if you get somebody who's really in the groove, they might not be as helpful. Um, Most weekends you could find a contest. There's a lot of on time. You can just Google what contests are amateur radio contests are going on this weekend, then you'll find the contest, and you can tell. Then you can look at the list and see what the exchange is going to be. For like for DX phone for U.S. stations, it's just going to be name and signal report and state, and then for the stations outside the U.S., it'll be signal report and power. Uh, which is it's kind of fun, especially if you're working a really good station like with good antennas. I had a run last year during ARRL DX phone where I was running 10 meters on Sunday morning when it's open to Europe, and I was working station after station after station in Europe that the reported power to me was QRP 5 watts, and I was working QRP stations in Europe from Arizona.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's
I
kind of
I
cool.
have heard I have heard, I've heard this quite often during
Yeah.
contest weekend where I'll be cruising the bands and I will hear where somebody doesn't know what the exchange is. And there are a lot of very good hams who stop their contest progress and they, like you said, they will walk them through what information they need.
Yep.
So bravo to those operators. You always to get the opposite side of that, but I hear probably more often where somebody will explain to the other operator what's needed.
I can tell you that on phone contests, very specifically, you're going to get that um, more than you would on CW contests because generally most people that are doing their first contest, they're usually newer operators. They're usually on phone, and they're usually trying to chase DX because it's a station they can hear it. If you Here's the hint too for S&P. So if you're a new ham starting out, or you're new to HF, or you're new to contesting, the best way to get your feet wet is go on an HF contest on the weekends that does DX, and you will be able to get a fair amount of DX stations toward your DXCC by just chasing those stations, because all of the really big guns that have big ears and good antennas and good operators are going to be on.
Yeah.
Many years ago now, and we're talking, that's probably like 2013, I'm going to guess. Yeah, about 2013, 2014. It was either a CQ Worldwide phone or ARLDX phone. I don't remember which one. But I had started on a Saturday morning on 10 meters with 3 countries confirmed on 10 meters at 8 o'clock in the morning, and 10 meters was wide open. By noon, I had 104 countries worked on 10 meters in about 4 hours, and I had DXCC completed on 10 meters by the time the end of the week came with Logbook of the World uploads.
That's
So,
amazing.
and I at that time I did not have a super impressive station. I think I still had the off center fed dipole and a 100-watt radio, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't running what I'm running now, and I was still able to do that in one day on phone.
Yeah.
So it's and that's a good way to get your listening skills up, because you get to learn the cadence, how they work, what they're doing, how people are getting them, when to call. You know, they're running simplex operations. It's very rare. In fact, it's kind of bad form to run split as a station during a contest, because the band's so crowded to begin with. But for chasing DX, maybe later we can touch on split a little bit, because that's definitely an important skill to learn.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
for me, when I was new, I have to admit that I hopped on a contest more than once and just gave out my call sign, and then they came back and said, "What's your I think it was what's your grid square?" And I'm like, I don't even know how to
What's
find
a grid
that.
square?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then on another occasion, I mean, there have been a couple occasions where when I was new, yes, exactly what you said, Brian. I just wanted to get on there and make contacts, and I didn't know the exchange. And then in one case, I thought I knew the exchange because, oh, I've been on here. I didn't realize that there were different exchanges for different contests. This is how new I was. And so I'm like, oh, I've been in chasing a contest before. I realized the exchange is this, and so I went there and I'm like, went to give the exchange, and then he asked for something different, and I'm like, oh.
Yep.
So yeah,
Well,
definitely.
And
oh, go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
another point that I'd like to bring up about, listening is that if you listen, you get used to how a radio sounds, and because it's not like the same audio quality that we're talking with currently. It sounds different, and um, by simply listening, um, you pick up things that you might not hear otherwise, especially stations that are fairly weak. So listening really helps you. And I noticed with going on Soda when we did Lone Mountain, Charlie, that when people came back to me, I was a little taken aback because I hadn't been on the air in a while, and it took me a contact or two to kind of get in the groove and be really listening to the information that I needed to log with.
Yeah.
So with regards to exchanges, because I was just thinking about this now of a way to or a way to kind of go for U.S. stations specifically. So this is U.S. stations only. For the most part, you're going to have like four different types of exchanges depending upon the contest. It's going to be signal report and state, signal report and grid square, signal report and an ARRL section. Actually, there's a few more. So let me go through all of them. Signal report and ARRL grid square or grid section, which if you don't know what that is, the section is your ARRL section. So for us, it would be Arizona. Um, and then your uh, zone, your CQ zone, which is a map, and it was formed and created by CQ magazine, which is defunct, but the contests still live on. That magazine sponsored, and so like we're zone 4 here in Arizona, and PJ2T is zone 9. So if you were working them, they would say, you give them the report, and you would just hear 599, and for us it would be 594. And that's it. The other thing with contesting specifically is less words is better. So if it's not part of the exchange, don't give it to them, because you're just taking up time, because rate is super important. The guys that are doing this for real and are going to win, 5 contacts can sometimes mean the difference between winning a particular region or the world or whatever, and not. So if the exchange is signal report and zone, all you need to give is signal report and zone. You don't have to say please copy. You don't have to say hi. You don't have to say I'm using this. They have tuned you out when you start doing that stuff. They don't hear you anymore. The only thing they're listening for is the information. You sound like the Peanuts teacher. Wah 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 5 9 wah 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 4. That's all they heard. They didn't hear anything else.
Yep.
So it's you know what you're going to say beforehand, then just say it.
Well, I'm
It's
glad
not
you.
they're being it's not they're being impolite. It's they're not looking for a rag chew. They are looking for a contact and to move on.
It's all about
I'm
rate.
Yeah, it's rate is king. Rate and
Yep.
accuracy. Those are the two
Yep.
most important things. And accuracy in some contests are way more important than even the rate, because if you screw something up, you can lose like so let's say you make one mistake, you get penalized 5 contacts for that one mistake.
Oh, wow.
So some accuracy for is way more important than rate in some cases, because you can really screw you make 1% error and you've made 1,000 contacts. That's a lot of contacts you're going to lose when they do the log checking afterward.
It's interesting I mean, so far you haven't forced me to jump around on my list. Number three on my list is be efficient, not chatty. Contesting is about rate, not friendliness. That's for after. And so give only the required exchange. Avoid thanks for the contact, good luck, you're loud here, and just respect the efficiency that's needed in order to get those contacts. So good.
Now,
Yep.
I will say, if it's a buddy, they may stop and say, like if I work Dan during one of the contests, hey Dan, what's going on? Everything's going great. We'll talk to you later. And that might be it. You might hear occasional ones like that, and that's usually because the operator knows the person that's calling them. And
Yeah.
that's an exception to it. But for the most part, it's going to be something fairly simple.
You
And
when
usually it's going to be the big station, the person that's running, it's going to be their decision if they want to start talking.
Yep.
So just
And it
respect
does
that.
freak me out, like on field day, if I get somebody that I know, and they throw in some extra, how you doing and how's the wife
Mhm.
or whatever kind of thing in there. It totally throws me off my cadence, and it takes me like 5 minutes to get back in that rhythm again.
Mhm.
Yeah. What else is on your list? So we've covered three so far, which is running versus search and pounce, listen more than transmit, and be efficient, not chatty. What else do you think is important?
Phonetics.
Yep,
Yes.
that's on my list too.
Phonetics.
Yeah.
Phonetics are
Tell us
definitely.
about it, Dan.
To me, phonetics are really important, especially if I'm on top of a mountain and I can't, I'm having a hard time, digging you out of the noise or something. Phonetics help me tremendously, and they're really important to make sure that I can ID you, as well as when I'm calling CQ using my phonetics for my call sign. Um, makes it a lot easier for you to understand me. Um, and please use the standard phonetics, not some off the wall lettering, unless I'm really having a hard time understanding you, and I have to go back and forth. Then give me a different letter from a different word, but always, use the proper phonetics.
Brian has something he's going to say, I
I was
can
going to say,
tell.
Dan, I shouldn't use Wonder Seven Jelly Eats Toast.
Yes, there are exceptions.
Yeah, yeah, no. So I'm going to say this for the contesting part of things. That's the closest thing you're going to get to, and I'm saying this like in a tongue-in-cheek way. It's the closest thing you're going to get to professional radio. Like very serious people are in this to win this, and trying to use proper phonetics is very important. And there could be variations on those phonetics, especially when you're talking to non-English speaking operators. There's certain things that are sort of implied, Norway for N, Tokyo, Yokohama for Y. Those are things that are okay to use because you'll hear them using it. And then
Zanzibar.
yeah, things like that.
Zanzibar.
But just making up this is we're gonna get in the way back machine here. So back when I was still working the ambulance job, when I was in my very late teens, early 20s, there was a crew of very nice ladies in one of the volunteer squads who was calling in on the police channel a license plate, and they didn't know the phonetic alphabet, and it was painful and embarrassing to listen to the point where um, laminated cards were placed in those ambulances with the actual phonetic alphabet in them, because I think the only people that weren't laughing were them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's in addition to that, I mean, it's important to have the same language, right?
Yes. Well,
Hmm.
if you keep it consistency is important with anything, especially in a situation like with contesting where you're running at a high rate and you're in a rhythm. When I with regards to just communication in general, when I teach people when I'm flying and I teach people how to talk on the radio in busy ATC environments, if you sound like an amateur, they're going to treat you like an amateur and you're going to have to wait. If you sound like you know what you're talking about and you speak clearly and properly and in the order that they're expecting to get the information, it's very quick. With regards to like N1MM, the entry fields, if you give the exchange in the order of the fields, it's a lot easier because I don't have to bounce around in the program
Mhm.
to get that information in there. So if the exchange is signal report and CQ zone, you don't go zone and signal report because now I've got numbers out of order because I heard 8 and I threw that in the signal report and now I'm having to bounce around and wipe things out to type that stuff in and I'm making a mistake.
Yeah.
No reflection on you, but it's about efficiency. You want to put your best foot forward, so always put your best foot forward. Think logically with the way you do stuff. If it's whatever's the most efficient way to do it, um, to get the information across.
What else do you have on your list, Brian?
Well, um, some of the things. So if you hear the station calling and the station goes like there's a pileup. So let's simulate this. Dan and Charlie call me at the same time right now. Just throw
Kilo
a
Charlie
calls out
7, Mike
there.
Sierra
NJ7V.
uniform.
This the station ending in Victor only. Dan, start talking. Call your call me again.
KC7MSU,
NJ7V.
The
got a
station in
five
Victor
nine,
only.
five
The
nine,
station.
5NJ7V.
I'm looking for the station ending in Victor. Victor only.
NJ7V. No phonetics.
NJ7V. You're 5'9". That's
5'9".
what happened right there happens a lot where you need to listen to what they're saying. If the guy's saying the station ending in Victor only, we're all reasonably intelligent. That could be argued with me, maybe not. But if you hear the station ending in Victor only and your call sign does not end in Victor, shut up. Don't say anything.
Yeah,
Alpha
Yeah.
yeah,
Sierra.
Just give the guy a chance to get through. You'll get through on the next one because if he's louder than you, all you're doing is making it harder for the guy to hear it on the other end. There's other things
Yeah.
you can do. There's techniques you can do that kind of makes things easier. So use the XIT in your radio and move slightly off frequency to change your pitch a little bit so your
yep,
tone is a little bit different from the guy that's trying to work at the same time. This is especially effective in CW to make it easier to get picked out because if you're zero beated with the other guy, if you're listening to a CW pile up on the other end, all you hear is noise.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another one of okay, so we've hit the first five that I have had on my list. So it was know your role, the searching and pouncing thing, the listening more, being efficient, not chatty, clear phonetics, and then control pileups cleanly is I think where this would fall under. And it's things like pick one call and stick with it, which you just said. And partial calls are fine, but be decisive, which also you kind of provided the example for. And don't keep saying again, again, again with no direction.
Yeah, yeah. The station ending in Victor again. You know, the Sierra uniform station, stand by. I'm working the Victor only right now. The Victor again. And that's
Right. Not just again, again, again.
yeah.
well, and when you
Be the
state it like
boss.
that, right, that's exactly what you want to hear from everybody who's calling you, so that okay, stop what I'm doing and just let that guy go.
Yeah,
It's a very clear way to do it.
Okay, so another one that I'm going to throw out is don't interfere. And what I mean by that is tuning up on an active frequency, transmitting
Yep.
over the top of somebody with a QSO. Um, if you accidentally interfere, then stop, move, and don't argue. So I don't know if you've ever run into that. Nobody's ever run into that, right?
Tuning up drives me absolutely bananas, especially if if you're on a POTA or a soda. It's like, dude, why? It's not like this is a big name contest kind of scenario here. Move off frequency, tune up, go back. Because you're just making it so difficult for that operator who is sitting on that frequency.
well, when I used to net control the Ole Miss 40 meter net on Saturday, the late net on Saturday night, did that for about 2 years. I get the tuner upper, and at first I would just ignore him, and then because I own it's my net, I'm gonna have fun. I would just key up in between them and say, everybody stand by. This guy needs to get 5 more watts out of the radio. Hey, dude, I think you need go all right, a little bit longer. You're almost peaked. It sounds like you might be there, but I think there's 5 more watts left. Go ahead and tune up some more. And I'd unkey. And I do that a few more times, and all of a sudden it would just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Split frequency also applies in here, doesn't it? Uh,
So split frequency in general. So I could tell you that I've never not hit the split button when I'm trying to work somebody on work a DX
yeah,
station that's
yeah,
running
me
split.
neither.
That's never happened. I've never
Never.
transmitted on the DX station.
Yeah, me
Right?
neither.
That's a complete lie. And anybody that tells you, including some of the most experienced DXers and contesters, that they've never done it once, they're bullshitting you.
No,
All right,
I've
we're
done
all where I don't know if I've said this on the channel before, but I always tell people, thank God it's amateur radio, because if it was professional radio, they would have fired me years ago.
it. Yeah.
Um, but you know, know your radio, know how to run split. Make sure you've got everything set. Make sure you hit the split button and then transmit. If somebody starts yelling immediately, he's listening up. Stop transmitting and make sure you're not the guy that they're yelling at. Also,
Exactly.
also, you don't need to be the up police, because sometimes the up police create more QRM than the guy that thinks he's running split and is not running split.
Yeah.
So you know, the up police, and if you don't know what that is, you'll figure that out. It's just basically everybody 10 or 12 guys that feel the need to tell the world that you're not running split, and you'll hear he's running split, he's up 5, you know, whatever. There's, I think the term for it nowadays is sad hams. There's a few of those out there. Just, it is what it is. Don't be that
Don't
guy.
be the
Just
sad ham.
Don't be the
don't be the
sad
sad
ham.
ham. Just do your thing. Again, you're human. It's amateur radio. Have fun, but know how your equipment works.
Yeah.
Generally, for CW, it's going to be up usually 1 to 1.5, and then the split, depending on how many people are calling, it could run out, 5, from like up 1 to 10 sometimes, depending upon how busy the station is and where it is in the D expedition. If if they first got on, or they haven't been on that band yet, it can get quite wide. And for phone, it's usually going to be 5 up and then up from there. So they'll start at 5 megahertz up, and then or 5 kilohertz, excuse me, up, and then it'll run up from there. So it might go 10. So if they're listening on 14250, or they're transmitting on 14250, they're going to be listening on 14255, and they might say, up 5 to 10. What they're saying from that means they're going to be 255, 256, 57, 58, 59, and 60, and everything in between. And you just kind of need to follow it. If you have a radio with 2 receivers, it's a little easier, because you can listen to the station, you can listen on the the frequency that everybody's calling on, and you can listen to see where they're calling, and you can plant there and then call, and you're standing a good chance of getting it. Or if you have a radio with a waterfall, you can very clearly see on the waterfall when the DX station, whoever's responding, and you could tune over there to be a little higher, or watch the way that they're sweeping the split to get yourself in the lock.
Yeah.
And it's just about time and patience. And if you're trying to do this QRP, like, God love you, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's hard work. You're going to earn it for sure, but it's going to be frustrating. If you're doing it with 100 watts and a dipole, still going to be a challenge, but not as much as 5 watts with a wire.
Yeah.
We have a guy here in the Valley who's a CW ops guy, and he does the CWTs with a QRP less than a watt, most of the time 500 milliwatts. And
Wow.
his call sign is N6HI, yeah, N6HI, and he's in Chandler. And I worked him from Curacao during one of the CWTs, and it was an armchair copy, and he was only running 500 milliwatts. But
That's amazing.
home
Wow.
here, I can't hear him at all here, and he's only 15 miles away from me. It's very rare that I work him during a CWT here. Every now and then, everything will be right, and I'll get him in the log. But usually, I don't work him very much. And a good CWT for him is 10 contacts. He's very pleased with 10 contacts, and that takes an hour to get.
Wow.
And he's
All right.
using an NFET half wave too. He's not using a beam with 500 watts.
Well, you use what you got.
So exactly, that's my point is, you can do it, but it's patience and skill.
All right. Before we move on, transition a little bit, I'll take maybe 1 or 2 more topics that you have. Either of you have any more?
Overuse of Q codes.
What do you mean?
Overuse of Q codes, like when you're, you know, in a you'll hear them in a contest. They're unnecessary, like in those in quick contact
Oh,
scenarios, or you know,
yeah. Give an example.
you're sitting on a mountain, and I'll call CQ Seco Soda KC7MSU, and then I'll say QRZ at the end of that, and it's like, okay, kind of redundant. You've already put out exactly what you need as far as uh, you know, calling your CQ. And matter of fact, in that particular example, I was probably overly chatty about it as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Um, it if you start inserting a bunch of Q codes in there unnecessarily, it just kind of ruins the operator's rhythm.
Okay. Good. Good point. Yep. Yep. Anything else to add, Brian, on any other topics?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, just listen. Listen for the operator, listen for the questions, understand some of the shorthand. R's, especially in CW, R's are probably something you're gonna hear quite a bit. Know what QRX means, which means stop. Stop transmitting, stop talking, or I'm gonna be QRT, things like that. Just know some of the basics. It'll help you a little bit with navigating what's going on.
Yeah.
This is obviously not a step by step tutorial. It's just three dudes that have operated talking, so we're gonna miss stuff. But take some time, look around, do a lot of listening. Just if there's a contest going on. So I'm gonna actually give the advice that I got indirectly from someone a while ago when I first started doing the contesting stuff, and it was more or less accidentally getting started. I was watching the DX Engineering YouTube broadcast that they do like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I think I was watching it on Facebook. And one of the CQ Worldwide contests was coming up, and Tim Duffy was talking about the contest, and he said, "Hey, get in the contest, make a goal of making 150 contacts, and submit a log." I was like, "All right, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. He's got a pretty big station. I should probably try that." So that's how I got started in contesting, was listening to that. And that's my advice to everybody else. I'm passing on Tim Duffy's advice to you from me. Uh, Figure out a logging program that does contesting stuff. I use N1MM. It's probably the most popular one. It's free. It's very easy to use. Um, Play with it a little bit. Learn how to use it. Figure out what contest you want to get into. Do the contest. Make a goal of making 150 contacts, and then submit the log at the end of the contest. That's all.
Yeah.
It's
Good
really
advice.
you're not going to break the internet, and you're not going to break the contest by doing it. And it'll get you a little bit of understanding of how this stuff is supposed to work. Plus, you can actually look at your measure. You can measure yourself afterward because you can look at, oh, I did 150 contacts and that was 10,000 points. That's pretty cool because you got a bunch of multipliers.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, with the time remaining, let's go ahead and do a little bit of comparing and contrasting the uh, contests that are, serious contests. What would you say is one of the most serious contests, Brian? I wouldn't know.
Well, from the big time contester world, the Super Bowl of contests is Secure Worldwide CW, which is usually over Thanksgiving weekend. So that is the biggest contest of the year, and then I'd say everything else after that. The next one would be ARRL DX, CW, DX Phone, and Secure Worldwide Phone. Those
Okay.
are probably the four biggest contests you're going to do,
So
and
if
then there's
we
some other ones.
Okay, so let's take one of those four and compare that to the operating style and the operating practices of one of those contests. Compare and contrast that to Field Day, and compare and contrast that to portable ops such as POTA and SOTA. What would you say are some of the major differences between them?
Well, I'd say that they're all along the same line because if you're a competitive person by nature, you're going to want to have a lot of contacts, and you're going to want to be efficient. You're going to want to work everybody, and you're going to want to bring these all in, and you're going to get excited about working the rare ones. And Alaska's calling you when you're on a summit. That's kind of cool for us, right? You're hearing a freaking Belgium station call you while you're running 5 watts on top of a summit. You're going to spend a little more time trying to work them, and it's more or less the same principle. You just you want to make the contacts. You want to have a discipline, a rhythm, and you want to get the right information to be able to make it a valid contact. So I'd say for the most part, if you're doing SOTA and you're doing POTA, you're training yourself for these other things. Because I can speak from experience. My main start was, especially for CW, was SOTA. My CW started with SOTA. And it kind of it branched out from there into other things, and there was other motivations behind my learning CW and getting up to where I'm at now. But the training ground for me, the farm team was doing it on was doing summits on the air for CW, and that
Yeah,
added to other things.
and I would say that the great thing about soda or poda is that the contrast is that it's much less serious. I mean, yes, you still want to get all the you still want to be as efficient as possible. You still want to get all the contacts, but it seems like there's much less pressure to make those contacts and to run in a rhythm. It's a great way to learn, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's not as much pressure, so it's a great way to learn. It's a good first step if you really don't know what you're doing. And like you said, I same way. I started with soda and I haven't done a whole bunch of contests, but I know that I could do them because I've had experience in with some of these others. Um, what do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, doing activities such as soda and poda really, can be a good step before you get into contesting. And to me, you can go do the big contest, but one of the funnest contests that I think, if you're new to contesting, especially, is do your state's QSO party. Uh,
Yes.
get together with a couple other hams and just, we all primarily pile in over at Brian's house on Arizona's QSO party day, and we'll have two or three stations running and just you know and having a good time, and we'll get anywhere from just us three to five or six people that come by, and it's a great way. It's a much lower pressure environment to start out in contesting.
And I agree with that too. And the way I'm looking at this, when it comes to like error tolerance, that's kind of what I'm looking at. This is something we haven't talked about yet, error tolerance. But when you're in soda, there is not even any a confirmation. There's no confirmation. You make an exchange, and there's no cross. I mean, you just count it honor system. Then you step it up, field day, and like you said, the state QSO party. There's some error tolerance. You definitely shouldn't have broken QSOs and stuff like that. But the problem with it isn't as it's not as serious a problem as if it were you were in a serious contest running for some sort of club or something like that. So there's different levels of error tolerance, I think, which is a big difference between the three of them.
Yeah, I'd say just a good contest to kind of get to practice in, or if you're trying to get new to stuff and have more complicated exchanges where you have to listen and get the right information in. But again, if you use a logging program, you have a good way of checking that because it's going to prompt you for it. The the um the sweepstakes, the ARRL CW and phone sweepstakes are great contests to do that in, and part of the reason why they're good contests, if you aspire to get your field day experience better for doing the exchange, it's a similar exchange to field day. And it's your ARRL section, it's a serial number, and it's your age, or I should say your age, but when you the first year you were licensed. So it's kind of fun when you do it because you hear some pretty interesting years coming out where it's like, whoa, 50, I just worked a guy who got licensed in 48. How old is that
Yeah.
guy? And now, but now it's kind of funny because of the change. You'll get 18. Well, I know I didn't work somebody from 1918, right? I mean, it's just not possible to have worked somebody from 1918. Probably there's not that many out there, if there is any at all. So you'll get the 18s, and usually those guys will also put the full year in there. But those are good ones to do, and they're that you can there's more controls and there's more rules, and frankly the sweepstakes itself doesn't have as many operators in it as it used to have. So go do the sweepstakes. It's fun. do it. It's fun. If you want to get, if you're working, if you're, I want to work on my worked all states, sweepstakes is a good place to do that because you can knock it out on phone and CW in one weekend. Just chasing the multipliers on sweepstakes, and there's going to be good stations on. So if you've got a low power station, if you've got a compromised station, if you're not, if you're not if you're using stuff that you have to hide, you stand a very good chance of being able to get that Rhode Island station that weekend or the Maine station that weekend if you're out on this side of the country. To get that out of the way if you want to get your 50 states. That's a good way to do it. Another
Yep.
good contest to play in that's fun is the 10-meter contest. The 10-meter contest is a blast, and that's phone and CW. You can do whatever mode you want. During the summertime, there's a new contest, the ARRL digital contest, which is FT8, FT4, and that's a fun one. And if you want to mess around with doing multiple radios, you can do SO as many radios as you want. So you can have 3 or 4 radios with bandpass filters running all multiple bands at the same time with a computer running FT8 on 4 or 5 radios at once if you want to. And there are people that do that. So you can get as crazy with it as you want. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. And I wanted to mention before we wrap things up here, excuse me, there's a podcast that I have started listening to, and I'm sure you guys know what it is. It's called Q5. I think we might have mentioned it before.
Yep.
Yes, we have. Q5 is a good one.
On Q5, I kept hearing about that what is it, 3088? Is that what it is? The log, the place where you put all your logs, like when we do CW ops and where's that? Where do we record that at? Do you remember, Brian?
3830 scores.
3830. Is that what it
Yes,
is?
3830 scores. So the exact website is 3830scores.com.
Yeah, that.
But if you put in 3830 scores in a Google search, it'll come right up.
Yeah. Well, so I knew about it because of CW ops, but for some reason, I thought it was just a CW ops thing, but it is not. It's much
No.
more than that. Can you speak to it, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a lot of contests, especially because I'm for contest clubs, we'll post our scores in there because it helps the club aggregate the scores for different things, and we could have a whole show on just how that works and what I'm talking about. But all the contests that are out there generally are tracked for public consumption for the scores on 3830scores.com. If you were to go there right now, you could actually throw your call sign in or mine or Charlie's or Dan's, and if anybody's ever tagged them in a contest upload, it'll be there. I can tell you that all 3 of the people on here for sure are on there. I know Dan is for sure on there because I would have
Yeah.
tagged Dan in the field day upload from this year. So you'll find Dan in there from our field day group. You'll find me in there, and you'll see every single one I've been in, all the scores and the data as to how, if it was an hour-long contest, if you operated the whole time. It's strictly voluntary and it's all self-enter. This is not binding in any way. It is just a public, essentially, to put it simply, it's basically a public brand.
It's
It's
a
sharing
billboard,
with your
right?
peers. Yeah, it's a
Bill.
billboard. You're sharing with your peers in the contest community how you do, and you could see what the score looks like. You can look at the top 10 scores for the entrant. So if a multi-single, multi-multi, yeah, it all depends upon how you enter the contest in the end, but all that stuff gets reported there. Um,
Yeah. So all my CW ops sessions were done there. Just an hour session, still considered a contest. Anywhere from like that all the way up to CQ Worldwide, right? They're all
yeah,
there. If
everything is there.
everything's
Everything
there.
is there.
Huh.
The SST, the MST, the CWT, the state QCell parties, field day, you need there. If you go to that right now, like so, all the contests that are available to enter in right now, I have the screen here. So these are the contests that you can throw one in for. A1 Club, Asia Pacific Sprint CW, CQ Worldwide WPX Radio, which is this weekend. The CW Ops, all 4 of the CW Ops CWT sessions from this week, a Dutch contest, the K1 USN slow speed test, and all these are in there. And if you participated in it, you could throw your scores up there. And depending upon what you do, like for CW Ops uses it to track at the end of the year for activity, and you'll get from the club, you'll get different awards. Same thing with the Arizona Outlaws Contest Club. Um, Yeah, and some of it's just for people to be able to look and go, oh, I wonder how Charlie did. Let me look it up there and pop it up and you can see how one of your buddies did.
Yeah, good.
Cool. I
Uh,
did not know that this site existed.
yeah,
Yep.
I
that's the
learned
thing.
something new today.
Yeah, so if you go there right now, let me see what I think 7MSU. So, yep, your field day is in there. That's the only one you
Yep.
have credit for right now, but there it is.
Yep.
Dan operating as K7K.
Yeah, and
Yep.
again, it's the give the website one more time. We'll put it in the show notes too.
Yeah, it's 3830scores.com. So
Cool.
I could sound like a really old person. I'm going to go https:// www.3830scores.com. But you
Slash
don't really have,
index. I don't know.
slash, you know, I could do all that, but that went out a long time ago. Or somebody could ask me for the number to that website too, but going anyway. 3830scores.com. That's where you need to go.
Cool. All right. All right. Good session. Good discussion today. I think I'd like to do more of these, just topic driven. And so if you're listening, give us your opinion. If you like these sessions, and maybe if you have another topic you'd like us to discuss, we'd be happy to maybe entertain it. So, all right, Dan, Brian, we'll see you at the next lunch at what's it, at
Waldo's.
Waldo's.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
33.